Everybody, it's Big Mike. I am here with Brashad Hasley. A couple of quick house cleaning issues. I do have a nose strip on. I have been sick all week, so this will hopefully make me sound a little less nasally for this interview. And with that, I think we're pretty good. Let's jump into it. So, Brashad, tell us about yourself. Tell us how you got involved and how you got started running for Senate.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Brashad Hasley. I grew up in a single parent home, just me, my mother, my two sisters. I grew up in Dallas originally, and my mom, she worked like two or three jobs, just to pay the bills and get us by. And she ended up getting us a house, and she worked her way up and, got me up to adulthood. And once that happened, I joined the military because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I wanted to go to college, but I couldn't pay for it. So I was like, oh, well, these are my options. And so I joined the military, did 4 years as a U.S. Navy corpsman and served with the United States Marine Corps as a combat medic. But anyone who's in the military will know what the corpsmen do. I was a green side corpsman, so just boots on the ground. I did that for like 4 years and finished my enlistment. After that, I went on to go to University of North Texas to go to college. And when I started college, I actually ended up having a son with an old ex, and she ended up passing away. And so I had to raise my son by myself. And so I was in college as a single dad, which was a lot of work. But we made it through and continued to persevere. And after I graduated from my University of North Texas, I got my bachelor's in computer science, and I went on to be a software engineer at Raytheon. Then I worked there for a while. I was working on aerospace as a back end engineer. And then I decided that I wanted to have a change of scenery. So I moved overseas and moved to Europe. And while I was living in Europe, I was working in Germany for SOCOM, which is Special Operations Command. And it was a great time. I traveled a lot, spent a lot of time out there, worked with our allies, our NATO allies, worked with the US government, and just did a lot of work with them. Some of that stuff is just mission operation type of stuff. And then I met my wife. We met on a train, which was pretty cool, in Germany. So that was like right place, right time, which was great. And, eventually we decided we wanted to come back to the States. So we traveled around the US for a while, looking at all the different states. And then we settled on Colorado. And Colorado was a state that we were like, yeah, this is amazing. We love the mountains. We love the place. So my wife, who was my fiance at the time, we moved here to Colorado and we got married at the Garden of the Gods. And then from there, we just decided to, we settled down here. We stayed here this is our home. And then from there, I started to start taking more notice into politics. Um, Coming back to the U.S. after taking a break from it, it was one of those things where I just started paying it more and more attention. I kind of always paid attention because I was always involved with the government, but I never paid attention to our electoral process so deeply until I got back. That was when it really started to matter. I started to pay attention to what politicians were saying, what they were doing, and how we were going about implementing these changes that were required for our society. And I realized that those changes weren't actually happening. Um, the politicians aren't actually pushing policy that actually make changes. They're not actually implementing any kind of changes that would actually do the things that they're saying. I was looking at universal health care. I was looking at um, how we bring prices down. I was looking at how we regulate AI, and none of those things were actually happening. And so that was a situation where I was like, what's going on here? Like what what are these guys doing? And what is my senator doing? And so I looked up what my senator was doing, and what our Congress members were doing. And I noticed that, Hickenlooper had pushed like four or five policies that he actually sponsored, and none of them do anything to help the American people. They don't. Some of them set up like review boards, and the others were just nothing. They were just like they were nothing. And I was just like, why are we giving all this power to these people that do so little with it? What a waste. And so that was one
Now,
of those situations. Go
what do
ahead.
you think is the cause? Why do you think senators like Bennett and Hickenlooper are so averse to actually doing things that shake the system up.
Well, for one, I mean, they're kind of old school, you know. And when you have old school establishment type Democrats or Republicans, they are more about maintaining the system than changing it. And also, they're not looking to change it. Like when they got elected, they weren't looking at this system and saying, I have to change the framework of America so that the American people have better lives. It's not something that they look at and think that's what I have to do, you know? And since they're not looking at the whole problem that way, they don't even have that perspective. You know, these guys are millionaires, right? They probably never went paycheck to paycheck. But they're not looking to change the perspective. They grew up in a time where it was a lot more affordable, and they don't understand that a young 18-year-old or 24-year-old or 34-year-old is completely unable to buy a home. They don't understand that paying for groceries and going on vacation are not options that go together for a lot of people. And so they don't see that the system needs to be changed. They don't see that. But I mean, I'm a young black man, bro. Like I know the system needs to be changed from the ground up. I've been knowing it since I was a kid. But to see that it doesn't change at all, that's an insult to the American people. So yeah, I think they just don't see it like that. They don't have that perspective. And yeah, I have plans to do it, and I don't think they would even make plans to actually change it. So,
Got it. So as a young man, as a black man, as a progressive man, what are your priorities once you get in the Senate?
main priorities are affordability. Right now, the surviving is so hard. We have a lot of problems on the planet as a whole, but in America too. And we need to bring America's empathy back to the front, you know? But the only way to do that is to make sure everyone can afford to live, you know? People are struggling, and so they're not concerned with other people's problems. And that's one of the biggest gaps we have right now. We can't sit there and talk about the issues with ICE or the issues in Gaza or Ukraine or or in Africa or in Sudan because people are so concerned with their own life right here, right now. So affordability is going to be my number one goal. That means like AI regulations. That means that making sure that the power of tariffs stays within the House of Representatives and Congress and doesn't leave. That way we don't have fluctuating prices. And yeah, I think from there, we just keep pushing. But I have policies right now for regulating AI and bringing. I have a plan. It's not really a policy, a plan to get Congress to take back the power of the purse because that's really important for keeping prices low.
Got it. And under affordability, I think also would fall. I'm a union member myself. I work a union construction job during the week. Where are you on labor issues? Are you pro union? Kind of tell us where you're at on labor issues.
Yeah, I'm pro union. Um, so for me, I want to implement changes that are pretty big and I'm gonna do it in an intelligent way to where, I'm not gonna go and tell the government, hey, you need to allocate this 80 billion for this policy that I just made up. Like, they're not gonna do that. Like, the government's not gonna do that. So my plans have to be smarter than that. They can't be just allocate the budget for this. They have to actually have implementation plans. They have to have data to back them up. I have to be able to say let's run a pilot program. Let's, create this program in this one state in this one time, working with the governor to make sure that the policy I want to implement will be beneficial to the American people and our economy, that it can pay for itself. And that's going to be really important on getting policy passed. The only way to do that is to have coalitions. And one of the biggest and most immediate coalitions you can ever get is a union. If you work with a union, you get you get volunteers, you get protesters, you get, advocates. And unions are going to be the ones to push the changes that we require in the future. And so I plan to work with every union possible if I can. And I plan to demo my policy and plan to them and show them the benefits of it so that they will get behind that policy. I'm going to work hardcore with unions if I can and expand them if possible because,
Hell yeah,
yeah,
hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
yeah.
I think that's. I mean, in terms of organizing and use and flexing power, I think unions are unbeatable in that realm. And sticking to our affordability where we were at. We see a lot of the Democratic leadership leaning towards this Ezra Klein, abundance theory, kind of New York Times, kind of I mean, it's neoliberal politics rewrapped. Where are you on this move? Is this kind of just them trying to rewrap neoliberalism? What are your thoughts on abundance?
So I never thought about abundance as a specific issue. But when I think about what Democrats or Republicans are trying to do, is that they're just trying to understand people that they no longer can understand. That they live in different lives and different perspectives than the average American entirely. So they just grasp at words, they grasp at ideas, ideologies that they're not going to fully embrace and implement into the framework of this country. Um, so yeah, that's like as deep as my thoughts go specifically on abundance. Um,
Okay, and kind of perfect, segue into my next question. A lot of doubt among the left and the progressives and Democratic leadership. You get elected. Are you voting for Senator Schumer to lead the Senate?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I mean, I mean, if I can't, if there, no one else is running and like we don't have like a legitimate race for it, then I guess, I'm not gonna go and piss them off for no reason. But if there's a chance that someone else could win, I'm gonna vote for someone else. What's the point of this old guard shit? We need new people. We need
Uh,
new things, new
Yeah, the
ideas. So
boomers have just held on to this for so long. It's honestly embarrassing at this point.
it
Like,
is.
dude, go home and spend time with your family, bro. Like, what are you doing?
We all like it's like mind blowing because I'm like, why do you even want to be there at 70 something, you know?
Dude, if
Like,
I'm still working 70-hour weeks when I'm 80, fucking kill me.
yes, take me out, bro.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to be here anymore. No, at 72, like, no, thank you, bro. Like, when I get like 50, you guys will be hard pressed. Should I get 48? You guys are gonna be hard pressed for me to keep going. I'm like, yeah, guys, I got the policy passed, let someone else come up,
Gotcha. So I got one more fun one before we get into some sticky policy questions. I always see in your videos you're always wearing your one piece shirt. I'm more of a Cowboy Bebop guy, but
Yeah.
tell us about that shirt. Tell us about what it represents and what it means to you.
So the shirt for me represents freedom and individuality, and resilience, and that's something that's really important right now in this time. And if you ever watch One Piece, in there they always like every arc is literally it's literally him fighting against some establishment, or fighting against some big wrong. I think like in the second arc that no, it's like the fourth arc. The fourth arc they even do he fights this guy who has his own little kingdom, and he hoards all the medical doctors to himself, and he makes all the people like pay tons of money and beg him for health care, and he hoards the doctors, and they stay with him the whole time, and then he ends up getting like at leaving the castle and all that and coming back. But anyway, the show is literally about fighting the establishment. It's about actually fixing problems and helping people. And it's about being yourself, you know. In this show, they have people from all different backgrounds. They have people from all different sexual orientations, and they make it work. And the main character in there, Luffy, he's always being friends with everybody. And so he doesn't really have an enemy unless they're a bad guy, and they're legitimately a bad guy. And so that's one of the beauties of it, and that's kind of how I like to look at it too. And that's how I work. I work with everybody. I'm okay with working with any and everyone, unless they're a bad guy. In that case, we're not going to be able to work together. This is the enemy.
Understood. Understood. All right. So I got a couple sticky questions here for you. A little bit more difficult, but they're very important to my audience. So I always like to get these in. We'll start with the hardest one, Israel, Palestine. Where are you on that?
There's a genocide occurring. There's an organization responsible for declaring if a genocide is occurring. They have declared a genocide has occurred. Those are the facts. There's a genocide occurring in Gaza, and we have to stop it. We need to put regulations and guardrails on our weapons packages to allies. We need to have very set rules specific for that. That means that we have weapons package deals all the time with many different countries. And if those countries violate any specific rules, we should have automatic guardrails that stop those weapons packages being sent. I think there's ways to do that. There's ways to implement that type of guardrail and make it to where America still gets paid, even if they go off and do the wrong thing. They won't get any more weapons from us, but they will still pay for those weapons. So that's one of the big plans I plan to do in the Senate is start regulating weapons packaging. Um, that's something that the Senate actually does. And so that's something I will plan to do to help stop what's occurring. But overall, I hope that what's happening in Gaza, I hope we find a resolution before I make it there. Because people are dying every day, and that's not something that we should be. I don't want that to continue. I want that to be a solved problem by the time I get there, if possible. Yeah,
Got it. All right, moving on. Medicare for all, for or against?
I'm for. I just don't call it Medicare for all, but we call it.
U-
I just call it universal health care. But yeah,
Universal health care in some sense, yeah.
yeah.
Do you have a preferred method or
I think universal healthcare is going to be the way. Living in Europe and going to other countries, been in a hospital in Turkey, been in a hospital in, Germany, I've been in a hospital in Finland, and they have different methods. Turkey doesn't have universal healthcare, just for the record, but the other ones do. Um,
did not know that?
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. But universal healthcare is one of those things where it just encapsulate a framework or a plan to have Medicare for all in some sense. And so expanding Medicare to cover everyone is a lot harder to do because it's just like make the budget bigger. That's it. You make the budget bigger and it's solved. You create a single payer system and it's solved. Um, but it's not that easy. We live in a very complicated society. Our health insurance policies are very complicated. The companies that we allow to have a grip on our health insurance are complicated and they have too much lobbying power. So, how do we get around lobbying power? How do we solve complex issues? Those are the things that we actually need to be talking about. Those are why policies need to be made in a smart way that lead us to universal health care. And so that's why I'm planning on using my 2 sessions for all policy. It's the mental health care policy. That policy specifically only targets mental health care in the beginning, but what it does is we create a federal fund. And if we're allowed to create that federal fund, um, there's nothing stopping us from expanding that federal fund, especially if we're able to fund it, overfund it, ideally. And so that's where that goes.
I hate to cut you off. We are running short on time. I got one more. Let's keep this one brief. Redistricting Colorado, for or against?
I'm for it.
For it?
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. And with that being said, we got about a minute left. Let people know where they can find you, where they can donate.
Yes. I made my own website. Like I said, I'm a software engineer, so if there's problems, it's my fault. But brashadforcolorado.com, that's my website, just brashadforcolorado.com. And yeah, I have a donation link there. We're on ActBlue, so look us up. And we need volunteers. So if you want to volunteer, get involved. We have a Discord and everything. And on there, we have our own private meetings. And I actually post my policies on my Discord. So you can check those out, critique them, tell me those are crap, whatever, and then we make them better and go from there. So yeah.
Sounds good. And I'm Big Mike. I'm your home for progressive news, issues, and candidates here in Colorado. You can find me on Patreon. Link is in my bio. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.